Hey guys, how is everybody doing? And today is a very special day because today I'm going to be starting my Christopher Nolan review series with his new movie coming up, The Odyssey. I am in a huge Christopher Nolan mood. He is probably my all-time favorite director. There are a lot of close number twos with Quentin Tarantino and Steven Spielberg, but I think Christopher Nolan is my all-time favorite director, and I seriously cannot wait for The Odyssey simply just because he is making the movie. And if you have been following my channel for the last 3 years, yeah, because this was 3 years ago. For if you followed my channel for the last 3 years, you will probably already know that I've actually already done a Christopher Nolan review series. Back when Oppenheimer was coming out in theaters, I was really, really excited for it, which that ended up being my favorite movie of the year. I was really excited for that movie. And I was like, I want to watch the Christopher Nolan movies that I never had a chance to see. There's some movies out there that I haven't seen that he's made and I really want to watch them. And so I did, and I reviewed them before Oppenheimer came out. And 3 years later, I'm kind of better at doing this. I actually edit my videos. I kind of put more dedication into them. I guess I could say. I put a lot more effort into my videos than I did 3 years ago, and the quality that they were 3 years ago are terrible. I hate the way they are. And so I'm going to be redoing all of my reviews. So I will be redoing my Dark Knight reviews. I will be redoing my Interstellar review, my Memento review, Insomnia review. I will be redoing all of my Christopher Nolan review series for the simple reason is that he deserves better because I kind of look back at that, I'm like that is embarrassing that I posted those. I seriously hate those videos. I want to delete them, but I don't want to. I want to, but I can't. But I will be redoing all of my Christopher Nolan review series with the release of the Odyssey coming out in within a month, about like under a month now. So it's gonna be a fun ride. So, with that all out of the way, here are my thoughts on his here are my thoughts on his very first film, Following. Starting off with my positives on Following, and Christopher Nolan's gonna be Christopher Nolan, and this movie is very low budget, and kind of it's more of a independent filmmaking student like film because he this movie was only made for like a couple $1,000s, maybe like under a couple thousand, if that. Like it was made for very low money, and especially for a film. And it was a student film, and he didn't have like a production company give him the profit for this movie. So he used his own money. He gathered up a bunch of friends, from what I hear, and made this with alongside a bunch of friends, something like that. And for this being his first movie and this being made for very little money, and and having people that aren't even actors, this is a very well made movie, and it makes sense since it's made by one of the all-time greats, because down to the just the filmmaking and the cinematography, the editing, literally anything that makes a good movie. This movie surprisingly does a very, very good job, and I'm kind of shocked that I did not remember that because I remember when I reviewed this movie back 3 years ago when I first watched it. I thought it was an okay movie. I thought it was fine. It was his first movie. It's not going to be an all-time great or whatever. But on my rewatch this time, I didn't realize how well of a film that it was actually made. Like, I was genuinely kind of shocked to see how well of a movie this was actually made out. So, that was a really big shock, but at the same time, I shouldn't be shocked because it's made by Christopher Nolan. And I also really enjoyed the dynamic of the two main characters. I can't remember. I think the one of the characters' name is like Bowel, a Bow or Bowel. That's not Bowel. What the fuck? Why did I say that? It's like Bo, something like that. And the other guy, he doesn't really have a name. He gives himself a name, but the whole movie's like leading that's oh, that's not his real name type thing. But their dynamic throughout the whole movie reminded me so much of Fight Club, of like Tyler and Edward Norton's character, which you want to call him Jack, the narrator, whatever the fuck you want to call him. Either ways, their dynamic reminded me a lot of that, and it's kind of funny because this movie actually came out before Fight Club. I just now realized I'm not supposed to be talking about Fight Club. Fuck it, I like breaking rules. But their dynamic reminded me a lot of that, and that kind of added to this movie, and it kind of added to that enjoyment and that funness of this movie, and I really liked that for some weird reason. Because when I was just watching the movie, there's because the main character, I'm gonna call him the writer, because he doesn't even really have a fucking name. Like, if you look it up, his name is the young boy. That's his character's name when you look it up. But I'm gonna call him the writer because he's fascinating with writing. But the writer character, he kind of is this, like, short, skinny kid, like, can't really fight for shit, and he's kind of like, he's simply a nobody. And then this other guy, he's this, like, big name, people know him kind of character, and, kind of gets away with the shit that he does with, like, robbing people or whatever shit that he really does, he gets away with, and that reminded me a lot of Tyler from Fight Club. These two characters are nearly identical to those characters in Fight Club, and I really liked that because the whole time I was watching it, I couldn't help but just think of them as that. That it really added to the movie, and I really liked that. I also kind of like this weird thing that they had throughout this movie where the two characters, like, they kind of paired up, became like criminal partners or whatever. What they basically did is they would break into people's apartments or homes or like or whatever the fuck. It was mostly apartments because I don't know where this movie takes place, but it was only in apartments, which I think it had to do with the low budget maybe. But throughout the whole movie they would like break into apartments, they would break into households, but they would never steal anything, and they would only like misplace something or add something, like, or just simply open a bottle of wine and drink it and kind of just fuck around with like pictures and music videos, stuff like that, kind of like old CDs, if any of you even know what that is. But I kind of really liked that because it kind of added this like different taste, and it kind of had this like weird theme towards where there's like a point where the character says, "Don't you listen." Makes them realize what, like, whenever they lose something, makes them realize what they have, something like that.
What do you want to do then? She'll find him in his trousers and ask him what he's been doing. Yeah, but why would you want to fuck up their relationship? Don't you listen. You take it away and show them what they have.
Can't remember the exact quote, but it's something like that, and I liked that throughout the whole movie because they never necessarily steal anything. There's only like one scene, like one time where they actually break into someone's apartment and actually rob them and actually steal their shit, which is the blonde woman of the movie. Like, they break into her household and then they basically steal her shit. She's the only person who they actually steal from. But everyone else, they just like misplace something or kind of shuffle around shit, and I like that because it never necessarily steals something, and it kind of just fucks with the homeowners mentally. Like, for instance, what if someone came in here and fucked up my movie shelf back here? I would probably be pissed because that took me hours because I had to move rooms, dude. But either ways, I thought that was really interesting and weird, but it was kind of fun, not gonna lie. But now moving on to my mixed aspects, and my first mixed aspect is that this movie's made in black and white, and I kind of like that. It kind of adds this like noir like feel to the movie, and it kind of goes with what the movie's kind of going for with tonally wise. However, there's like certain shots where they're like in daylight and the sunlight is it just becomes even brighter, and it kind of takes you out of the movie and kind of makes you realize like, oh, the black and white filter or whatever kind of fucks with the movie a little bit, and kind of just down to performance wise, they don't really sell that this movie's supposed to be in black and white. Like, whenever you watch like a black and white movie or show or whatever, it has like a certain tone and a certain performance coming from the actors or whatever, and this movie doesn't have that, and that kind of takes away from it. But I do like that it is in black and white, and Christopher Nolan wanted it to be in black and white. Surprisingly, I thought it was a budget issue, but no, he just wanted it in black and white, which I kind of like it just from that. Which I like the movies in black and white, but when you watch the performances, it doesn't give you that black and white like tone that you usually would expect. following that, the performance in this movie are not very good, which I won't rag on it too much because it is a low budget movie and these are people that aren't actors. They're just people that, were just in this movie to make it alongside Christopher Nolan, which I'm assuming they were friends with him from what I can tell. But either ways, performance wise, they're just okay. Now, there are moments where they actually have pretty good performances or pretty decent performances, but there's like literally a scene where the two characters fight and the fight sequence is really bad and poorly acted and it doesn't even look like they're fighting at all. So yeah, the performances there are just bad as well. But however, again, I won't rag on it too much because it is an independent film or student film, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But it is a student film, so these actors aren't really actors. But moving on to my negatives, and I'll be honest, my negatives are very subtle and small, and I won't rag on this movie too much. But one of my negatives is that, kind of outside the dynamic thing that reminded me of Fight Club, this movie at times kind of feels too much like Fight Club, and it's weird. No, and again, this movie came out before Fight Club, so it's even weirder. But reason why it feels more like that is because, like, not only is it the dynamic, but like the story it kind of goes for and this like the misplacing thing kind of like Memento, which I'll get into later. And there's like points with the characters where where like the Bo character, I can't remember his name for the fucking life of me right now, but like he kind of fucks with with the writer and kind of fucks with him a little bit to where it kind of reminds you of that. And even with the blonde woman with the love interest where she kind of sleeps with both characters, kind of similar to, well, Fight Club, and has those moments which, and I'm gonna repeat myself later, but since it feels too much like Fight Club at moments, I would never rewatch this movie because I would much rather watch Fight Club because I'd much rather watch the version that's better than this. But I don't know. Eh, Again, I can't really rag on it too much because it's a student film basically, but at the same time, it's just like, well, when I watched Fight Club first, and that's a better version, like I'm just gonna watch that. And my final negative, and it's basically just repeating myself of the Fight Club thing, but Memento wise, because this movie feels pre Memento. This feels like, you know, Christopher Nolan kind of laying out what he wanted Memento to be before he made it, because he would go on to make it 2 years later. And it definitely feels like that because Memento has those things where everything's like mismatched. Like there's certain scenes here where like how the movie actually begins the way the movie would end or whatever, and then there's like moments where it's just like placed here and there randomly. And this movie does that. This movie has like moments where the writer has like a full beard, long hair, mullet, and everything, and then the next scene he's just like spitting out gloves out of his mouth and he got his ass kicked by someone or whatever. And then all of a sudden he has like a fresh shave and haircut. And then the next scene he's talking to this random girl in the bar or whatever. And then randomly they're talking on the phone about this plan that we have no idea about. And it does that. And I kind of like that because it adds to the movie. But at the same time, this is pre Memento. And Memento's a better movie. And like I said with the Fight Club thing, I would much rather be watching Memento than this movie because Memento's a better made film. But again, I'm just kind of repeating myself the Fight Club thing, which this is what I feel like this is what Christopher Nolan wanted to show what he wanted to do with that movie, which it isn't a bad thing, but since that movie exists now and it is also a much better movie, it makes this movie a little bit worse. All in all, guys, I actually really enjoyed following. And now I don't remember how I thought about it when I first watched it. I think I thought it was just okay. I don't remember what I thought about it back then. But on this most recent rewatch, I actually really enjoyed it. I thought this was a very solid movie, and I could see myself rewatching this because it's only like a 70-minute movie, so it flies by when you're watching it. But however, compared to other Christopher Nolan movies, this is very tame and very, un-Nolan, I guess I could say, but it has the Nolan feels to it, like I was talking about earlier. But I honestly really enjoyed this movie, and if you're a big Christopher Nolan fan and you haven't seen this movie, I'd definitely give it a try. It's only 70 minutes long; it won't take up that much of your time. Well, what do you guys think about Following? Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Do you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? Is this actually one of your favorite Christopher Nolan movies? And did you see this movie before Christopher Nolan was, Christopher Nolan? Let me know in the comments below and we shall talk about it. And if you like this video, like it. If you love it, subscribe and hit the bell notification so you will get notified for all my latest videos and for the rest of my Christopher Nolan review series. Thank you all so much for watching. And of course, until my next video, I'll see you all next time.